I don't think I've ever looked on myself as anything other than a supporter who was lucky enough to get to play for Celtic.
It's no secret that Tommy Burns lived his relatively short life for his God and his family, but that was only part of the reason that the ordinary Celtic supporters, in their tens of thousands, lined the streets of Glasgow on the 20th day of May 2008 to bid him a final and fitting farewell. 5 days earlier, on the 15th of May, Tam Burns for the Calton lost a long and dignified battle with cancer. The Celtic family had lost one of its most treasured sons, aged just 51. Tommy had lived the dream for so many of the supporters who had paid to watch him in 503 appearances for the Hoops. His story is very unique in that regard. This self-effacing fan who got lucky has in fact a great story. He was born in the shadows of paradise, would play for the team he supported, he would manage it, coach it, and be forever linked with this proud institution that he loved, and that loved him. Family, faith and football will always be synonymous with the man who was revered by all, who bridged the religious divide in Glasgow and beyond, and who epitomised everything which sets his beloved Celtic Football Club apart from the rest. This is his story. The story of a man who, quite simply, was faithful through and through.
The sharp bait has such teeth there, and he shows in pearly white. Just a jackknife has old Maggie bait, and he keeps it out of sight. You know that shark bites with its teeth there. Scarlet billows start to spread. The fancy gloves, dear, has old Maggie bait. So there's never a trace of red down the sidewalks. Oh, Sunday morning, lies a body just oozing light. Well, someone sneaking round the corner. Tell me, could that someone be Mac the Knife? There's a tugboat down by the river, don't you know, where the seamen bag just a duping on down. The man is there for the wait, dear. Say 5 will get you 10 old Maggies lying town. Here by Louis Miller, he doggone split the scene, babe, after drawing out all of his hard-earned cash. And now Mac Heath spins just like a jailer. Could it be my man's done something rash? I said, Jenny Dava, oh, Suki Tadwi, look out for Miss Salad Lignon and old Lucy Brown. Oh, the line falls on the right, baby, and now that Mackie back in town. Look out, old Mackie is back. Yeah.
Tommy Burns was born in Soho Street, now the site of the new St Mungo's Academy in the Calton, on December 16, 1956, to his parents Margaret, a school cleaner, and Tommy, the father of the Burns family, who earned a living erecting steel. Thomas was number 2 in a set of 3 Burns Waynes, and the only boy coming between his sisters, Elizabeth and Anne. His boyhood and lifelong friend was fellow professional footballer Jerry Collins, and he remembers how the game dominated Tommy's life from a very early age.
Me and Tam Burns grew up 43 Soho Street, just off the Gallowgate. You could see he was a budding football player because all he wanted to do was play football. And then you grew in the back courts with the ball, and just me and him with the ball all the time, playing football. That was his life basically, just a normal, happy, go-lucky wee guy that wanted to play football.
St Mary's Boys Guild and his mentor and guiding light, John Rice, set up Tommy for bigger and better things, and he was soon earmarked as a potential for the professional game. Before Willie Fernie, a Celtic legend in his own right, and then the great Sean Fallon took an interest in his career, Tommy Burns had left the care of Rice and found a step up the football ladder with Ian Stevenson at Easter Craigs Boys Club. But Stevenson would see Tommy only as a result of the player not fancying leaving home for life in the northeast of England.
Tommy came to us in, I think it would be about 1970. He came when he was 13. And what had happened, there was a lad in Denison called Jack McCartney who was a scout with Middlesbrough, and he said, I've seen a very good player. I think he would be able to play at a higher level.
Thomas Burns went down to Middlesbrough and went and trialled down there, and they wanted to sign him, but he was homesick. And when he come back up the road, he thought, oh, it's not for me now, I feel as if I want to be here. Jack McCartney thought, well, we need to keep tabs on this guy, so he had a connection with Easter Craigs.
So he gave me his address, and I contacted Tommy, and I said, will you come to our training? And I picked him up at Belgrove railway station, entered into things, got to know the boys, and we had him from there on.
A nervous Tommy, accompanied by his father and John Rice, arrived at Celtic Park to sign an S form on November the 4th, 1971, despite interest from both Everton and Leeds United. The rest, as they say, is history, though it may have been completely different had it not been for his Celtic supporting father.
Celtic at that time were one of the top clubs in Europe, and I think I had it in my mind then that I don't think it would happen for me there, because such a high profile there and so many great players, and not really thinking that as the years were going by that team was coming to an end. So I came in and said that I was going to go to, I think it was Leeds United and trial, who were also a big club at that time. Everton, I think, wanted us to go there, and I was actually leaving. Then John Higgins, then God rest him, said to me, have a wee look in there at the trophy room. So I went in with my dad and John Rice, and then looked at the trophies, and my father, who didn't have a great influence on me as a boy at football, he said to me, it's the Celtic you're turning down here, you need to really think about that. So a couple of minutes looking around at the trophies and thinking, Craig, how good would that be to go and tell your pals that you signed for Celtic, and everything like that. So very quickly changed my mind. So that was probably the best advice my old man, God rest him, ever gave me.
While it would be another 4 years before the Celtic faithful would see Tommy Burns in first team action, he would quietly in the background be learning his trade. As he signed on as a professional on the 23rd of August 1973, he would learn the intricacies of the game from a season farmed out at Maryhill Juniors, and from the harsh reality of cleaning dirty boots and even dirtier terraces at Celtic Park. At Maryhill, he would score 19 goals, win the Central League C Championship and the Maryhill Charity Cup, and would be runner-up in the Evening Times Cup, the Whitbread Cup and the Central League Cup. There would, however, be much more silverware to come.
The ground staff at that time was terribly difficult to get on. The time we spent cleaning toilets and cleaning dressing rooms and getting things ready and cleaning the terracings, and that was our duties. Our duties were to do the chores first. The Lisbon Lions was still here. What a tremendous feeling to be here in the mornings when the great and the good were coming in through the door to go and train, and just to be round about and watch and see what was happening. Me and Thomas used to love when the team trained here in Barrowfield, because we could sneak outside in between the chores to watch and see what they were doing. This was a place to be. If you could get to Celtic Park, you were one of the best young players in Scotland.
I remember him coming when he was 15, and they used to call him Wee Tam. We still called him Wee Tam. But he was Wee Tam. He was about 3 foot or something. When we used to go to the Beechwood, Big Jock said to Pat Harkins, Pat, try and build him up a bit. He's in the short for 3 foot to about 6 foot. But as a footballer, it was always a good idea how to play the game. And I think a left-footed player always looks at a little bit more cultured anyway than a right-footed player.
On the 19th of April 1975, the left-footed Tommy replaced stalwart Paul Wilson for what would be the first of those 500-plus appearances for his beloved Celtic. The Hoops lost 2-1 that day, and it would be Tommy's only run out in season 1974-75. A player on the verge of being a big influence at Dens Park around that time was a man who, in later life, would be his friend, his boss, and his confidant.
I was scared of Tom in ways that he could play really well against us. I was scared that he could actually physically hurt me at times. But as soon as the game finished, I had a respect for him. Because as soon as the game was finished, that was it, as far as he was concerned. And we got on terrifically well at the international level. But he was He was an elegant footballer. We had no qualms about, let's just say, intimidating you at times. I didn't have the weapons because Tom was bigger and stronger than me, so I had to use my tongue, unfortunately.
We'd known each other for 13, 14, but we went on to the ground staff. He kind of took me under his wing, and I was a country bumpkin and he was a big city wide boy, you know, and he took a lead of me for 6 months while I was on it. But he looked after me. Me and him became great friends then.
Not the best defensively, if I'm talking as a defender behind him at times, but you know, he created so much going forward. And at half time there would always be little ding-dongs. If things weren't going right, he'd be having a go at the back four, he'd be having a go at people around him. But equally, he was the type of player who also took criticism himself. He was the first to dish it out, but he was always the first to take it as well.
Creative players sometimes are asked to come back into defence, and I think Tommy thought, well, if I go in there, I might cause disharmony, I might cause distress, so I'll just hang out here. He gave us a good out for counter-attacking.
I think the biggest criticism Tommy had that people say he didn't work hard enough, and I hear Danny on saying the same thing playing behind him. He could have played with anybody in the top divisions in England at the time because he just had a wonderful left foot. I think one of the highest accolades you can probably play on is the fact that Arsenal wanted him to replace Liam Brady. It shows you the quality that people outside the game, outside the Celtic supporters actually, and probably outside Scotland, realised the talent he had.
If he was playing just now, you know, with this so-called holding midfield player, he'd thrive on it. Tommy's game was basically to attack and go forward for midfield. Defensively, he wasn't the best in the world at doing it, but in the modern game now, he'd really be an outstanding player because he had a tremendous left foot, good pace about himself, and he had good vision.
2 days short of a year later from that sub-appearance, the much maligned non-defender would start his first competitive match. Aberdeen were the opponents in a 1-1 draw, and his total appearances for that Barn campaign in 1975-76 would be 5. In October of '76, he would play for his country against Czechoslovakia in the first ever match that Scotland contested at under-21 level. Domestically, it may have been a slow start on the Jock's team, but Tommy eventually would maintain a regular place in the left wing, and in season 1976-77, he would win his first league and cup double, as well as scoring the first of an incredible 82 competitive goals. His winner's medal in the 1977 Scottish Cup final came from the vantage point of the substitutes bench, but Tommy was as passionate off the field as he was on it.
Since I was about 12 years of age, Tommy had spoken to me probably the first time in as an S for him, and he'd taken time out to speak to him, and I was in awe of him, you know what I mean, seeing Tommy Burns. Then I went full time at 15 when I joined the ground staff, and every day he'd come in and ask you how you were doing, how you got on this Sunday. And I think he's seen on us the fact that we were Celtic supporters desperate to do well, and it was our dream the way it was his dream to play for that club.
You know, and spoke to him and been with him on many occasions that he was basically a supporter that had got a chance to play with the team and took that chance and went on to being a fantastic player.
I mean, I know he had this image in the papers, almost a St Francis of a Assisi character, that he had time for everyone, but it was true, you know, he was never away from the hospitals visiting supporters, he was never out at the supporters clubs, and everything you hear about him was true.
I think they saw Tommy as one of their own, as somebody they could relate to, actually touch and speak to and feel, and I think that's why he's revered, and rightly so, amongst the Celtic supporters. But I don't think it was restricted to Celtic supporters either. A great deal of football people had a great deal of respect for Tommy Burns.
I think you're always aware of, whenever you go, that you represent the club. There's always people watching you. I think I recognised that and learned that from a very young age. You know, that there's always people prepared to say things about you if you're up to no good. And it's a question of, you know, representing the family that brought you up, and bearing in mind that my father was a big, you know, Celtic supporter. And then getting the chance to play and sign for the club, I think you're always aware of, you know, you don't want to let your family down, and I think it's an extended family, really. But I think it all comes together when the Celtic support come together here for games, and I think the European nights are perfect examples of that. I think Seville was an unbelievable example of that, where you had guys from all over the world all just coming together for this. I think I've described it before as a cause. You know, once they come together, there's never any trouble or anything like that. They just want to support Celtic and give the right signals to people that what the club's all about.
I don't think he ever thought he was worthy of that he got from them, because he was just one of them. He thought he was the same as them, so he didn't think that they should be giving him all this accolade that he got. As he always said, he's a supporter got lucky, and that was him.
Ted Men won the league, the 4-2 game, Wee Doyle got sent off. I always remember looking up to the director's box. He just jumped in front of Desmond White, I think it was at the time, and stood up on top of it. It was like Christ, he was just standing there like that, and he was roaring and greeting.
And despite not featuring the night 10 men won the league, Tommy notched up 40 appearances in total, and barring future injuries, he would appear as a regular in the starting lineup for another decade to come. Passion and Burns go hand in hand, and sometimes that fiery red hair of his would manifest itself in a way many Celtic supporters would see as unfamiliar, even from an early age. Yet this would be a constant throughout his football career, regardless of his role.
He used to play in the left wing for us. He was very, very small, but very tricky and quite bad-tempered. I mean, he didn't let people push him around. I used to say to him, Tommy, go into the penalty. If they're going to kick you, get them kicking the penalty. And we get the number of penalties we got with Tommy wriggling through and them just hacking them down. So that was a wee ploy. That was one of our tactics, was to get Tommy into the box as often as we possibly could.
His temper almost cost him his Celtic career because, I mean, it's common knowledge that he was ready to rumble one night with Big Billy down at Seamill. The team was struggling at the time and Billy was going through us one by one. Basically said, you're going to have to do a lot better. This was before a Scottish Cup semi-final against Hibs. When he said it's not good enough, he just happened to be looking at Tam. And Tam has reared up and says, what are you talking about me like? And Billy said, well, if the cap fits for that matter, wear it. Tam's up on his feet. Billy's grabbed him by the neck. Billy's got him up against the fireplace and all hell broke loose, players jumping in, separating them. Billy sent him upstairs to get packed. Said, go and pack your bags. We thought he was going home. And it was difficult to see any way back. But Billy wasn't daft. Billy knew that what his worth was as a footballer and what it would have cost to replace him. Basically, Billy left the door open for a comeback. I think Tam apologised. But when the red mist came down, all bets were off. There's not too many brave enough to take on Big Roy. He warned Roy. Roy was kicking one of the ground staff boys who had been taken down to Seamill to make up the numbers. And Tam said to him, Roy, you're taking a liberty, last one. And a few minutes later, sure enough, Roy's upended the boy. Next minute, Tam's throwing haymakers. We're all jumping in to pull him up. And that was Tommy.
He'd come in the dressing room and he'd be raging. You know, sometimes he'd be absolutely fuming. You know, the red hair, but the face was red, you know, and saying, you don't effing care, and you don't, nobody cares, you don't work hard enough, you don't do this, and you don't bother about it. And I would always turn around and say, I ain't having that. He would turn and look at you and say, well, that's no surprise coming from him, but see the rest of these, you know, he'd always turn around and say that to you. So if you answered him back, he'd always say, but it doesn't surprise me about him, or it doesn't surprise me about him, you know, because you always try to get a reaction. But within seconds, he was your best pal again.
By the dawn of the 1980s, Tommy was pivotal to the success the club would enjoy under Billy McNeill and then the stewardship of Davy Hay. Tommy Burns loved Celtic, that much is true, but he also loved his family and his faith. In fact, he was renowned for this love, and it was always family first for the father of four.
He was so for the kids, but in saying that, one word for him was all that was needed, and then that was it. The behaviour or whatever the problem was stopped. Whereas finance and all that kind of thing, when it was that hopeless that anything like that didn't take to do with a thing. In fact, the first time we went to America, we went to Florida, the kids were all just wee tots. We didn't have a credit card, anything like that. And I remember me saying to him, Thomas, everybody says you need a credit card when you go to America. And he said, that's no problem, don't worry about it, I'll get a line of big packages. I mean, he didn't realise that was, because I took it out enough, but I mean, he didn't realise you just don't do that. He didn't have a clue about things like that, banks, nothing. He wasn't allowed a bank card, he wasn't allowed a house key, he wasn't allowed anything, he lost everything. The washing machine was broken, I'd called out a repairman to come in to have a look at it, and Thomas, as usual, was just sitting in the living room, his remote control, just watching television, not doing a thing. And I'm in the utility room with the man. He's pulled at the machine, must be water get into the plug. He's pulled at the plug and got the biggest blue flash ever. Just came in, the man got blue right along the hall. And I screamed and I shouted, Thomas, quick, there's a blue flash just came out of that machine. And he never even moved off the sofa, not a thing. He just put his head round. He said, no blue flashes allowed in this house, only green ones.
He just used to wind my mum up non-stop, like, and she'd be up to high-do and he'd just be sitting in the living room like that, as if he's just reeling it in. It's just, honestly, it was hilarious, like, so funny, do you know what I mean? Like, you knew when he was in the house, do you know what I mean, because the place is in an uproar.
So you get up in the morning, I'd walk out into the hall and like he'd be standing at my door sometimes like that, and then he'd take me into the room in a headlock, throw me in the bed and all that when I was in the morning. Like, Dad.
Just what you want first thing in the morning, get ready for your work.
And he'd keep laughing, he'd keep pushing me down, he'd try and get back up, and he's like, no, down you get, mate. I'd be like that for about 5 minutes, up and down, like a bloody yo-yo.
And he'd just like randomly kind of bring people in for dinner. So my mum would be going off her head, like the dinner's been sitting in the microwave for about 5 o'clock and we're now at 9 o'clock, so he was never in, out all the time doing something.
I think that was one of the funniest nights ever, the night he brought Jerry home. My mum cooked this big steak and poured like a peppercorn sauce over it. But it was like a paste, this sauce, right? It was really thick. And you were supposed to dilute the sauce, and my mum never. And Jerry, God, he must have been dead sensitive to like spicy food or whatever, so he's eating this pepper and the sweat's lashing off him. And my dad's like, go to somebody at a hose and hose Jerry down.
Like we'd all just try to ignore it, like Jerry's face is just getting redder and redder and redder, sweat's pouring off your ring and steam coming out his ears.
I thought Jerry was actually going to die that night.
And he starts saying, right, Jerry, you take your dinner, go and sit outside. You sit outside, get a bit of fresh air, but you know what?
See, the day Cole was born, we went up to the hospital, like my dad took his car and I went up my mum's car. We got outside and he'd left the lights on, the car wouldn't start. It was February and Michael and Jonathan were like out pushing the car. Michael's got on these shiny shoes, they're pure scuffing. And he's sitting absolutely killing himself laughing with the foot in the brake the whole time. And they two are trying to push.
They're out pushing the car and he's just sitting with his foot in the brake, killing himself laughing at they two trying to push
and
this
one
car.
there, Michael's feet are pure coming out and it's raining and all that.
League championship medals would come in 1981 and 1982, his third and fourth. And it was in the first year of that decade that he would catch the eye of his former boss, Jock Stein, who by this time was manager of Scotland's national setup. The faith he had shown in Burns, however, at club level, would not transfer to the international scene, as Tommy would not become the Scotland regular that his position at Celtic merited. But long after the boots were hung up, he would play an arguably more important role for the nation he was so fiercely proud of. And of course, Eden Stein's decision to look past his young protégé never altered the player's opinion of the club's greatest manager.
By the time I came in here, he was like a god here. I mean, I think everything, he'd won everything. He'd won the European Cup, had taken Celtic to a total, different world. And that being the case, he was just a guy that, whatever he said, you done. Basically, Big Jock was old school, and if he thought for 1 second that you were ever stepping out of line, then he would just nail you to the wall. And I can remember 17 years old, first year in as a sort of full-time player, and we're going to Hamilton Accies to play a sort of Celtic 11. And at that time, there'd been a few players that were coming towards the end of their careers here. Guys like Tommy Callaghan, Harry Hood, Dixie Deans. So they were in the squad to go and play. And they would also make that with some reserve players and obviously some very young players. And I fell into the very young category. But at that time, didn't have a coat, worth talking about. So it was just like a jacket. As I say, I was only 17. And Big Jock quickly observed that didn't have any coat on. So he's thinking to himself, he must think he's playing, no coat on to be sitting in the stand. Hey sir, where's your coat? And I was like, I've not got a coat. Just at that, John Clark walked by. John was taking the team that night. Although Big Jock was going to the game. Hey Clarky, give me that team line. I realised after it what he was doing was he was putting me in the team. I thought at the time when I looked, I thought, I wonder what's happening there, but right, so obviously I was in the team. So we get to Hamilton, I'm amazed because there's about half a dozen first team players in it and I'm suddenly thrown into play and I thought, crikey, fantastic, Anyway, 5 minutes into the game, we'll go to the ball a couple of times and tried a couple of wee flicks and everything like that. So next thing I hear is a shout, hey you, hey sir! And that was a Big Jock shout, and I was like, I'm down the side thinking, crikey, because he was right down the front side of the stand, right on the touchline at Hamilton, the old Hamilton. I get a wee flick again, like, hey you! I looked across, he was like, hey, you've got 5 minutes to get something done or else you're getting off. So that was only 10 minutes into the game, so this is me, my first game, 10 minutes into it, Jock Stein gave me this absolute lambasting. It lasted to half time, and go at half time, he was like, hey, away you going to the bath. Away you going to the bath. You're playing like an effing old man. So that was me. And totally distraught, away him and I say, hey, that's me, I'm not make it a Celtic. Now, what is it? Big Jock said to me, and I said, I'll bloody go up and see that Jock Stein. So, following day, I think it's all psychology, he works it towards a positive. He goes, come here you, hey, what have I told you about that? 5 minutes and the next thing you're walking away and you feel as if you're the best player in the world again. And he was fantastic at that. He'd done that later on when I became a first team player as well. He would take you and just absolutely floor you. And then 2 minutes later, he would have you back. And to be fair, Big Billy had some of those traits as well. Could take you and nail you, but at the same time had a fantastic way of motivating you as well.
In 1982, he would win his one and only League Cup winners' medal with a victory against Rangers. And by now, he was the mainstay of a changing Celtic as the power shifted from Billy McNeill to the new man Davy Hay. In 1985, he would win his third Scottish Cup in the centenary of the competition, and the following year, as sweeping changes were affecting the club's greatest rivals across the city. He played an integral part in a league championship side that clinched the title in the last day of the season from Hearts.
1986 was a strange year. I think everybody had written us off and nobody gave Celtic a hope of winning the title. But I think there was that belief within the dressing room, and again inspired by guys like Tommy, Danny McGrain. They had that sort of inspiration about them. It felt we don't give up to the last minute, and I think that's what drove us as well. There was that sort of will to win, and I think any great Celtic team here always had those type of characters in the dressing room, and thank goodness it paid off. We hung in there and things went our way in the last day of the season, which was great.
Arguably, Tommy's greatest season as a player was also one of Celtic's at that time. The managerial roundabout had spun once more, and the greatest club captain Celtic have ever seen, Billy McNeill, was back at the helm for the centenary campaign. It was also the season that Tommy was rewarded for all that he had done for the club with a glamour testimonial against Liverpool. Tommy loved scoring against Rangers, as much as any true Celtic fan would, but perhaps because of his strong Christian faith and the fact he came from a so-called mixed family, he earned the respect of everyone.
Everybody could see that not only was Tam a very, very talented and wonderful player to watch, I think he was a great human being. You know, when you saw his interviews or when he met the fans or when he spoke on television, you could always see somebody who had a bit of class, a bit of humility and manners. Absolutely loved his team and very proud of that fact, and rightly so. And I think that transcends everything. You know, he didn't go out of his way to upset MD. Actually quite the opposite. You look at him, you know, when he scored a goal, for example, it was always his own fans he wanted, his own teammates he wanted to go and celebrate with.
I think if you could go to a guy sitting up behind the Celtic end there, or where it was a guy in the jungle at that time, you could take him out here and say, right, here you are going, you've scored against Rangers. It would go absolutely mental. And it was always the same. And I think obviously when you scored against Rangers, it gave you a wee bit extra because you knew what it meant to family and your pals and all that type of stuff. Even scoring in the reserve game here gave me a fantastic buzz because it's a goal, it's history, it's your name down in the goal scoring charts and at that time and Celtic's history, so it's all good, all good.
By the time he had won his final honour as a Celtic player, the Scottish Cup in 1989, Tommy's long association with the club was drawing to a close, and his last appearance in a Hoops jersey came against Ajax on the 6th of December, but he would return. That same year, 1989, a fleeting family consortium had taken over at Kilmarnock, who were at that time in the 2nd Division. 3 days after his final, emotional showing in Celtic colours, he signed on at Rugby Park. His playing career would continue as the Ayrshire side climbed the ladder back to the big time, and then his chance came to take the reins for himself as manager. One of the first people he turned to in the summer of 1992, in a bid to win promotion to the top flight, was his teammate and pal, George McCluskey.
Tommy phoned me and says, I've got the manager of Kilmarnock and I want you to be my first signing. My first signing is going to be my best ever and I want you to be there. And I says, okay, no problem, is everything set up? And he says, aye, I'll come out and see you. And about a week later, he came out to my house and he says, there's a paper, sign that. And there's always that joke that I signed for Kilmarnock for a packet of sweeties, and it's true. He gave everyone the Maltesers and Maribars. And he says to me, how do I get to Stonehouse? And I says, you just got up to M74, come off after Larkhall, Stonehouse, you'll get it there. About 12:30 that night, Rosemary phoned and she says, was Tommy at your house? I says, aye. She says, he's not come home yet. I said he was going to the hospital to see Jimmy Steele. And it transpired that he missed Stonehouse in the M74 and ended up in Carlisle. And he drove about Carlisle for about 2 hours with young Jonathan in the car with him. And he got home about 3 o'clock in the morning. And he's yet to see Jimmy Steele. And about a week later, he phoned me. He says, right, the training starts. And I says, by the way, you've not told me what I'm on around. He says, oh, we'll talk about it when you come back when we do our first day of training. But I trusted him that much.
Tommy's tenure as gaffer at Kilmarnock lasted for 2 years, and shortly after he took them to the Scottish Cup semi-final, he was back in the East End of Glasgow, back where he belonged.
I just got the call from, I think it was Tommy Craig at the time, just, you know, asking me, you know, what my thoughts were on it. That Fergus McCann wanted to speak to me. So it was all hush-hush scenario, you know, where there's a job here, you know, if you want to go and apply for the job, there's a job here, all that kind of stuff. So I went to meet Fergus in town. I think, you know, with the greatest respect, it wouldn't take much to get me to come back here as a manager. Although always in the back of my mind, discussions with Billy Stark before we came, I'm always thinking it's a bit early for us, Starkey, because we've only been at Kilmarnock a couple of years and we're still sort of player, managers type thing. The same thing kept coming back to my mind, kept coming back to Willie's mind. Fine, say no and we can go on with it, but it might never come in your lifetime again. So just went for it. To whatever it'll be a great experience. And I think the 3 years here certainly proved to be a great experience.
I left Kilmarnock, you see, and I went to Hamilton to get into the management side. So I had a season there, and at the end of that season, Tommy got the job at Kilmarnock. I remember him coming up to the house as if he needed to go heavy duty to get me to come. It was an easy decision. We had a great time at Kilmarnock, enjoyed it thoroughly, a great club. But when the Celtic opportunity came up, there really wasn't any sort of time scale in terms of thinking it over or anything like that. You just knew that you had to take it. And people say, you know, he was young and all the rest of it, but as he said at the time, you know, you can't pick and choose when you get an opportunity like that. It might not come round again, so got to take it.
3 years at Celtic was not an easy time for this particular manager. Rangers were dominant in the Scottish game, yet Tommy was undeterred. He never once wavered from his plan of playing football the way he had been taught to play it, the Celtic way, even if it meant a complete shift in the relationships he had enjoyed in the past.
Well, there was one or two tussles when he became manager, but I think it helped us. There was a good relationship there, so we could obviously maybe get the message through to other guys, the new guys that was coming in. Early doors, it was quite smooth, but as things moved on, Tommy began to realise that he was a gaffer and had to put his foot down now and again. And then that's when the sort of wee tussles came between maybe myself and Tommy, Peter and Tommy, and it was maybe lively debates. One occasion I was locked in the boot room with him for half an hour, and he was telling me what he thought of my performances over that particular period, and I told him actually I didn't quite agree with him. So, but again, the relationship that we had through playing and then as a manager and player relationship, we just sort of shrugged it off, moved on, we cuddle, and on with the next game. And I think that's what it was all about. I think it was just respect, just utmost respect, what he'd done in the game, the way he conducted himself, and you knew that whatever he was saying to you was just, he was just wanting to help you.
The first phone call that was made was between Lorraine and Rosemary, who were very close, and they just said to each other, listen, these two mugs are going to fall out for day one, so make sure that no matter what happens between they two, that we're always friends, you know. I was absolutely delighted for him, but I just also felt it was an extra pressure on me because I was a close friend of his. Probably it was the most difficult time the relationship had. I felt I had to keep my distance a little bit more than probably Tommy did, because he still wanted to be your best pal. People always used to say he was soft or that, but I remember he'd made me captain when Paul was unlucky with his injuries. And then he'd taken the captaincy off me one day and said, I just feel I've got to make this decision. I argued with him, disagreed with him, told him what I thought of it, but he still taken the captaincy off me. And to me, I thought that was a very strong decision on his part. And don't get me wrong, he came up maybe about 6 months later and said to me it was the biggest mistake he made.
He assembled a team based on the experience and talents of those professionals who had played alongside him in a previous life, but that he still needed and respected as Celtic men. Add to that the talents of many international stars who would capture the imagination of a Celtic support devoid of success in so many barren years that had gone before, and he had it all except one important facet: luck. The odds were against him from the off. The first season was played at Hampden Park as Fergus McCann's dream to create a 60,000-seater stadium took shape. In the first of those 3 years in charge, the Burns-Stark partnership won the Scottish Cup. And after that, there would be a remarkable homecoming to the all-new paradise. Behind the scenes, however, his relationship with the club's owner would slowly deteriorate to the point where they eventually parted company.
Very quickly there's a real cold sense of reality hits you with the expectation level and the pressure that's put on you, the pressure you put on yourself because of the fact that you know what it means to so many people, and obviously your desire and your passion to try and realise that good thing for them, you know. The year we had at Hampden was difficult because it was very early full with Celtic supporters for ordinary league games. They seemed to be so far away, totally different from when we come back to Celtic Park.
The political side of it, I think, was something that I don't think any of us enjoy. If you can sum up the Tommy and Fergus relationship, and to make it understandable to people, then it was black and white. Fergus had the plan that he had for the stadium being built, but Tommy was concerned only with winning the league championship for Celtic.
The biggest disappointment I ever had was not winning the league for him when he was a manager. Football-wise, it was definitely the best Celtic team that I'd played in. But I'd been and watched a lot of Celtic teams, And that couldn't have been far away from being one of the best teams that I'd seen for the Lisbon Lions, football-wise, and the way they played. He wanted to entertain every time he played, because he was an entertainer himself. As I say, I didn't think it was appreciated, but he was an entertainer himself. But he felt Celtic supporters were paying hard cash to come and watch the club, travelling hundreds of miles to come and watch them week in, week out. He felt he owed them that. You know, he felt that was a Celtic tradition that they'd be held up. He wanted to play with flair and style. You know, I mean, that's why I was surprised to be playing. I said at the time, I thought it was probably going to be the only Celtic team ever to get a standing ovation at the end of the season for 1-0.
Everybody talked about the style of football we played in that time, but people don't know that the work we used to do behind the scenes, and it wasn't a good understanding, it wasn't a fluke, you know, because we worked on it. I think he was hurting as a fan and, you know, obviously a manager. It was more important to him than in stopping that.
At a time when we were trying to buy players and we've been unsuccessful, then we had an opportunity of signing David Ginola. Tommy was obviously very excited about this. And we managed to get him over, and he started off by saying in the meeting, look, this is really good. I've just had talks with Newcastle, you know, I don't want to go there. This sounds a much, much better prospect. You know, the idea of the new stadium and what you're trying to do in Celtic Football Club and its world standing, this appeals to me. He was going to bring his wife over at the weekend, then take things forward the following week. Tommy had done such a number of them that it was growing and growing on him, and they actually said at the end of the meeting, look, I don't have to bring my wife over, so I'll come over on Monday and I'll sign, and then I'll bring my wife over later and she can look at houses and what have you. And right at the end of the meeting, Fergus said to Ginola, but remember, nobody's told you about a wet, rainy night in Falkirk, so you have to find out more about Scotland before you sign. And I'll never forget it. I remember seeing Tommy try to kick Fergus under the table. I think he actually kicked me. David Ginola went away and he phoned Basil Bolly, who'd actually fallen out with Rangers at the time. And he says, nah, you know, they're right. You got a couple of big games, but the rest are small games. With a Rolls Royce waiting to pick him up at the airport on Monday, and we got a phone call to say that he was in Amsterdam and he was meeting the guys from Newcastle, and he changed his mind, he was going to sign for them. So that's part of the things that caused the frustration with Tommy.
I used to go and watch Celtic season ticket when he was manager, and probably some of the best attacking Celtic sides that ever had. It always, but we deserved, the team deserved so much more for the way they played. And Tommy was a great manager. He must have given them so much confidence to go out and play. Paul McStay, Peter Grant, as you said, John Collins, Di Canio, Cadet, Van Hooijdonk, all these great players, and I was in the stands watching it.
As a boy, I was a Celtic fan, and I grew up in the time with Tam as a manager and played the game the way it should have been played, and just unlucky to come up against a good Rangers team at the time, and I thought he'd done great as manager, and always good to watch his teams playing. Unfortunate just to win the Scottish Cup.
Wasn't a particularly good game from your point of view, but the most important thing I think was just to win, to get the monkey off the players back, and so they could suddenly think, oh right, we've won something for Celtic, let's go and try and win the next thing. There was a huge pressure on them, and I think it took its toll on them in the game also, so it was like basically just trying to keep them going and, you know, keep their minds right, and, you know, just get this one and we can take it on from there. So eventually we got it, and it was just a huge relief, really, to be honest.
To see the expression on Tommy's face, together with McStay, with Grant and Billy Stark, that was more than the joy of the rest of the players. It meant so much more for them, while for us it meant a lot. But for them, just it had more of an emotional part. As a foreign player, when you come here, you give everything and you want to feel part of the club, but you can never touch that feeling that these people had that day, because from the first year, they've been Celtic through and through.
The emotion that was showed after the game, the emotion was showed for him more than anything else, because I knew the worry and the heartache he'd been through and the tough time he was going through. So in the cup final day, I was hoping that was going to be the start of a great success for him, and unfortunately it wasn't. You know, he never got the time probably to see it through. And I always remember when he got the sack and he was going to testimonial, and Tommy got up and sang, "Quentin Houston's can't take away my dignity." And I remember looking off the stage myself and looking at all the supporters all crying, and that was the Celtic manager up there singing this. Probably the club meant too much to us. That overrode us at times, I must admit. That getting in the way has probably seen the best of us, because it just meant everything. We'd be sitting 2 and 3 and 4 in the morning with Celtic suits on after games if we hadn't played well. I mean, we could have won 4-0, but if we didn't think we played well, or as individuals, we'd be sitting talking about the game, disappointed.
I was told when I came in that there would have been 3 million the first year. When I look back at it, I think 3 million's compared to what Rangers were spending at that time. So it was always going to be difficult, and we had probably what we consider to be a meagre budget, but it was still worth the effort, because I think that year, that group of players, to go to that level in 1 year was quite remarkable, you know.
It was obviously a hard time for both of us. Tommy was brought in to try and obviously prevent Rangers equaling Celtic's record. You know, for somebody to come in, take over and work under that type of pressure, you know, it was difficult for him. I always remember the first year he was making his changes. We managed to win a league, and then the next year I had a feeling myself that, you know, it would be a huge season for us. You know, to go through the season and lose one match and not win a championship. Well, I never managed to do that at any time over the period that Rangers were winning. As far as I'm aware, I don't think anybody else has ever came anywhere near doing that. But all during that time, even with that frustration, he always handled himself really well. Tommy, he's always a great deal of dignity at the end.
He asked George Douglas to ask me to leave through the back. George Douglas was head of security at that time. And I can remember distinctly saying to him, well, listen George, I came in through the front door and I'm sure as God not done anything to make me want to walk out the back door. It was exasperating because you felt as if you were drowning in this whole sea of things that would take too long to explain to everybody. And at the end of the day, it all just seems like a sob story, because ultimately you're judged on whether you win or not. So you just have to take it and hopefully be better for the experience of it, which I think I am.
Throughout his career, Tommy had developed a network of close friends, but he never forgot where he came from, which is one of the reasons that his loss was felt so severely when it finally happened. The impact he had on people from all walks of life ensures he will always be in their hearts.
He never ever forgot his roots. St Mary's had a dance every year that Tam Burns always went back there and presented the medals to the under-15s or whoever it was, and Tam was a kind of role model for people in the Carlton that John Rice would get Tam to give a wee speech to the guys and tell them the rights and wrongs, and there were two paths. You could go the right path, which was try and make something of yourself, or go the wrong path and end up like some of the guys that we grew up with that maybe went to drugs or drink or whatever. Jose Mourinho in Chelsea kept saying he was a special one. Well, I think for me and for a lot of people in Glasgow, or East End of Glasgow anyway, that Thomas Burns was a special one because he never walked by MD. And MD had maybe a bit of misfortune. He was always there. Any time that any of the guys that he went to school with or we grew up with were having a bit of problems with financial whatever, he was always a guy that would be round their door, helping them out financially, maybe even spiritually, or try to talk people around about. Just, he was a decent human being. He's probably the best human being I've ever met in my life.
Everybody's got a tale to tell about Tommy, you know. He had time for everybody. It's, you know, it made everybody feel welcome. Doesn't matter who you were, it was just the same to Tommy. He touched so many people since he's been here.
That dressing room in the late 70s, early 80s was a great dressing room. There was always a little bit of banter. He was so quick off the mark. Typical Glasgow humour, you know. He wouldn't let MD, he'd take the rise out of MD really, you know, and was quick to come back at people.
Tam was good with players, always laughing and joking, and it could be serious obviously, and if you need a kick up the backside then he could give you it, but he had great banter and you knew when you were going away that you were always going to get a few shouts off of Tam.
One of the nicest men you'll ever meet. I know a lot of people say that, but genuinely he was. You couldn't have met a nicer guy than Tommy Burns. And a great coach, someone who's has made a mark on me as a player, which you've got to be thankful for his words of wisdom and different little things. And one of the funniest men you'd ever meet as well, sometimes unintentionally and sometimes intentionally, could pull out and crack a great joke, and the camaraderie between him and Ali McCoist was fantastic in the Scotland squads when the Walter was manager. That's something, they used to play for each other brilliantly.
I'm a very lucky man to be his mate, if I can say that. I think that's what I'll remember. No matter what happens at Celtic, I think that one of the best things that ever happened to me was the fact that I can call Tommy my friend. And I think if anybody has that, then they've been very lucky that if Tommy Burns your friend, then you can be, Tommy's words, you're blessed if you can be a good friend of Tommy Burns. I would remember Tommy Burns as the guy that epitomised everything about Celtic Football Club that is good. And I think that's the greatest compliment I can pay him.
I'll never forget him. I will never forget Tommy. Tommy was just going forever.
A special person, a guy that's helped me so much in my career. Probably more than anyone else, to be honest with you. I mean, it's just so sad that it always happens to the good people.
A person who gave me a good side of how you can combine passion, love, warmth, joy and know-how into the football game. to get a good combination of these things can make you a person who is appreciated by many, many people.
He was always late, and I thought McCoist was always late, but Tam was always late. But when he came in, he just smiled, and that's what he brought to everybody. He brought a smile to everybody. One of the best people that I've ever had the privilege to know.
For me, when he walked in, people have said it a million times, he made the room warmer, because there was never, he could be angry, but within seconds, and I mean literally seconds, there was a bit of banter going on, because it was finished with a quip.
I've always remembered Tommy Burns as a sort of combination of opposites. Here was a young guy from the East End of Glasgow who was just sheer class on the football part. He didn't so much hit the ball as stroke the ball. He didn't run, he sort of glided. He weaved his way in and out. He was somebody who was, on the one hand, very serious about life, witness how seriously he took his faith. But beneath this, there was this awful element of mischief. He was a joker and a prankster. He was the first man at Celtic, I think, to call me chairman. Now, he knew me, and he knew me for quite a while before it. So when Tommy, instead of calling me John, referred to me as I walked in as Mr. Chairman, I was never quite sure whether he was serious or whether he was taking the mickey.
A couple of glasses of red wine and he was gone, and there was a fight between himself and Charlie Nicholas and wee Willie Callaghan and those guys, who was going to sing first and who was going to sing the most songs. The day I met him, taking me around to the house as a young man, and me arriving on the doorstep with him and Tommy saying, hey, I brought this guy around, make something to eat for him, and her cooking the fry up, I suppose, at that particular time.
I was the best friend, and he was a good colleague. He was my brother, and he was a very, very fine person.
I'll just remember him as the most funny, inspirational person I could ever hope to meet in my life, and I'm just so proud that I'm his daughter and he was my dad, and he always will be. And I would rather have 23 years of him than a lifetime of anybody else.
I remember my dad as happy, somebody I would always go to if I needed something, if I was in trouble. I know he'd always be there. He'd never judge you for anything, and he's my hero.
I think that he was just the centre of our world, and like everybody was just drawn to him like a magnet. He made me want to be a better person, like in everything. Anything I would always think, right, what would my dad do? And I think that's the effect like he'll leave with me, because even now I still think, right, how would he deal with that? Or like I wasn't very nice to that person there, or he wouldn't have done that. So like constantly he's in your head all the time, like you can hear him like all the time. And I just think he made people want to be better when you met him.
Tommy had many traits. In addition to the plaudits he earned as a footballer, coach and man manager, he was terrible at timekeeping, was hopelessly forgetful, and was renowned as being a joker, a one-line expert and someone who could cut you in two with his sharp wit. Invariably, the humour would come at the expense of other people. Oh, and he could also fall asleep at the drop of a hat.
Walter was given his team talk, and Walter was always very funny, but when it came to team talks, when it came to game time, he had a kind of a different face, you know. And Coisty as well, they would come in and it was kind of serious. We were at a hotel somewhere going through the team and this and that, and just over in the corner you could just see Tommy's shoulders and starting to go, and he had fell asleep during Walter's team talk, and Walter just shook his head. He said, you know, what can I do? You know.
You were meant to rev everybody up and they sent him to sleep. But we were out with Rosemary one night, and I thought it was only me that sent him to sleep. They were moving to Newcastle and she didn't want to go to Newcastle, and she didn't want the kids to be moving school. She was up to high door about doing that, and only people there were taking him around, showing him houses and showing him schools. And he was in the front of the motor and she was in the back. Rosemary says I was rabbiting away all the time, and I was rabbiting away and I was rabbiting away, and she said, I don't want to be here, Thomas, and I don't want to do this. She was waiting for a reply, and all she could hear was snoring through the front seat. And I thought, that's typical of Tommy in the sense that his wife's, she's all aggravated. And he was just that laid back that he was sleeping in the front. So it wasn't just my team talks that sent him to sleep.
We were in Milan to play Italy, and we're training at the San Siro. So Big Jimmy, Tam and myself thought it'd be a good idea to go down to the stadium to set up before the boys come down. So I thought, we're training at 5 o'clock, well, you know, boys aren't leaving at about 4:45, we'll go down about 4:30 and set up. So sure enough, a car came to pick us up. So Tam's sitting in the front and I'm sitting in the back with Jimmy. We're, no, lovely city this and blah, blah, blah. But Milan, you ever played here? Oh, I've played here. You know, the usual nonsense getting spoken. So I'm thinking to myself, the driver's, you know, sort of taking his time. I don't know what's going on here, but we get there about 10 to 5, 5 to 5. So there's a big opening at the San Siro where, so we can look right in and we're just going right in to get the training organised. As we look in, there's boys out in the park with balls, kicking the balls about. So Tam turns to me and he says, oh, Christ, he says, you're beauty. He says, the Italians are here. He said, we'll get 10 minutes watching the Italians before the training, before we set up the training. I said, oh, that's magic. So I had another good look through the big gap. I said, Tam, I've got bad news for you. That's not the Italians, that's us. That was the Scotland team. And I don't know how they've done it.
Just great to have about the place. He's always cracking jokes and you always get the same shouts off him in training. We've got guys that can do that and this could be your last trip and things like that. It was always the same shouts every trip, but they were always funny every time he said them.
His usual one, I used to have a few favourites. Like somebody hits the ball over the bar. Oh, you guys at the social club today, that? Used to say that one all the time.
We went to play away to Wales and we did the starting team against the rest, so our job was to press. And I was playing right wing and Tommy filled in at left back. It's the subs and the goalies who make up the numbers and the coaching staff. I ran into press Tommy really quick and he's going to play down the ledge and just slide it through my legs and nutmegged me and got it on the other side. I think I ended up fouling him. So we went down to dinner that night and there's a big screen set up and everyone was like, what's that? And it's Tommy constantly ran the replay of him nutmegging me, and any time for the next couple of years we'd meet up on the trip, the first thing he'd say is, remember that nutmeg in Wales? And no wonder we got beat 4-0 in the game. My confidence was probably in ruins.
We were playing, it was Newcastle Man United in 2 testimonials, and Charlie McGrew was on loan and he get brought back into the squads for those 2 games. And obviously when you go to testimonials, you get Roy Keane, you get yourself a nice watch. That was a gift. And Alan Shearer's, you got yourself telly. Tommy's like to Charlie, oh Charlie, is you done his testimonial next week? No, you're again. 3-piece sweep, you man.
The first time I had been away with him as part of the club, over one of the meals, the doc was expounding at great length on healthy eating, how we all ought to be fit and what it contributes towards your life and how you have to be very careful about what you eat. And then during the next meal, I noticed that while the doc was eating his fruit salad, which he had chosen very carefully, he'd get called away 2 or 3 times. And every time he came back to it, he seemed to be getting more and more purple in the face, to the verge of choking. And what I didn't know was every time he turned his back or left the table, Tommy was filling his fruit salad with more Tabasco sauce and chili pepper. My first memory of Tommy on a very serious away trip was him just taking the doc down a peg or 2.
When I signed for the club, myself and Mike Conroy used to come up the M8. I'm from Gourock, Mike's from Port Glasgow. I would pick Mike up the M8, off at the Royal Infirmary, onto Duke Street. Used to come across Tam legging it along Duke Street in the morning, trying to make training. He had bought this car from a pal at Charing Cross. This car had a mind of its own, it would never start. Tam actually used to joke, typical of Tommy, he said he'd put the key in the ignition, turned the key, a sign came up on the dashboard, get a cab. And eventually we said, look, we'll stop off at the Drygate, which was on our way. Of course, that was a mistake as well, because we'd go in, pick up Tam in the Drygate, he was never ready. His mum would make us a cup of tea, we'd sit drinking tea, and eventually we'd appear, and you'd be looking at your watch, it'd be on 10 o'clock. We'd need to try and sneak into the ground, try to sneak inside entrances to the ground. He thought this was a scream.
The first day the floodlights got put up at Barrowfield, I made a wee joke because, you know, Gaffer loved training late and he came back in the afternoon and the floodlights were a wee joke that he was going to be training late. But the first day we got up, I remember rounding the line and crossing the ball in, and I've turned to look at the ball going in and I've smashed into the floodlight the first day it was up, and I've burst my eye open, the top of my eye, and I've came back up the wee hill for this bit, and I was sort of looking over for a bit of sympathy, feeling the blood in my eye, and he's like, look at you, you're the first guy I've ever seen limping with a headwind. It's like...
He was responsible. I know he was responsible because there's no other man that would have done it. I got this beautiful coat from my wife for my Christmas, and so a couple of days after we were in here training, down here in the dressing room, and I wore the coat in, you know, and normally after Christmas the lads come in with jumpers or something and there's a bit of a slagging going on about, oh, there's a Christmas present. So I had this long black coat, wore it in, and we shouldn't have done it, bad mistake. So anyway, the lads went out onto the track and I was probably one of the last going out, and everybody was standing around the track and having a laugh and so on, and nobody was moving, and I kind of questioned, why is this and what? And next thing I was diverted, to say the least, to the flagpole on top of the jungle, and my coat was flying in a strong gale force wind with the two arms out like this, and Tommy had sort of hijacked my coat and took it away and got Hazy to put it up on the flagpole, and there was like a flag up there. I didn't tell Anne for a long time after that what happened to our Christmas present.
Once we were playing on a Wednesday night, and Big Billy was sitting in the stand, and I was in the dugout, and he sent word down that he wanted Tommy to come off, and we had the sub ready on the line to go on, but he wouldn't come off. So I kept looking up to the Big Billy, but every time I looked at the Big Billy, all I seen was his feet and doing like that. So I couldn't see his head. So I was left with the situation to put the sub on, and he's no coming off. So it finished up, the sub had to go back in the dugout.
Jim Blythe won't probably forgive me for telling it, but we were coming home from Denver after the tour there, and the sponsors had put up a certain amount of first-class seats. I had managed to get one, and then Gordon, Gary Pendry and Tommy got the other three, and Jim Blythe was down the back of the bus. Before we took off, Tommy gathered Gary and Gordon, and you know, these first class, you've got the overnights, the transatlantic, and you've got a bed. So they all put their pyjamas on, and Tommy took a photograph with his mobile phone and then texted it down the back to Jim, who was sitting with his knees up at his chin.
We were training at Barrowfield. He came in one morning when we trained. We got changed in the referee's room down there, and I was in there getting changed. And Tom actually used to have quite a few things to go to, sad things, some people's funerals and whatnots. And he came in one morning, very smart, jacket, tie, suit, and everything. I thought, oh. And he went, "Morning, Pendle, lad, how are you?" I went, "Morning, Tom." And as he walked past me, he put his briefcase down. "Tom, what have you got your slippers on?" He come to work in his slippers, and he just went, that look he used to give it. He'd come to work in Jonathan's shoes. He'd come to work in Jonathan's trainers. He was just scatterbrained, but not a horrible. He was a fantastic, just fantastic.
The manager had a go at me one time. It was a few years ago. It was one of the pre-season games. After one of the games, he was annoyed with me. He said, "Oh, you're a circus act." Tommy latched straight onto that. Tommy used to walk in going like this. Here's Ed walking in. Going like that with the spinning tie. Because he used to always sit next to me, like whenever the manager was having his team talk. And like he'd say, "Look, I've turned you for a circus act, and a £10 million player."
The hardest job I've got is telling good players and good professionals they're not getting picked for that game. I told Paul Hartley one day for whatever reason, and sometimes you've got to talk a heap of rubbish. Then I said to Paul, "Listen, I'm leaving you out for this reason, that reason." And Tom says, "What you say?" I told him this. "I'll go and speak to him. I'll make sure he's all right." So little did I know, he went away into the dressing room in front of the other lads and says, "Listen, the gaffer's leaving you out for medical reasons." And Paul went, "What medical reasons?" Tom says, "You make us sick watching you playing every week." "You make me sick watching you playing every week, so we've left you."
His timekeeping was absolutely abysmal. He just used to drive me nuts with his timekeeping. Getting ready to go out, maybe to a function, and on Saturday night to a Celtic function, you have to be at a certain time, and you're waiting for him coming in, and then he comes and he's no had a shower at the park, run a wee bath for me, and get maybe a quick cup of tea. I'm standing ready, and he would say, "It's okay, Hen, don't worry about it, these things never start in time." Then we'd get into the car and there'd be no petrol, so that would be another, this time as I told you, my blood pressure's up to 100. Can't take much more, and then Julie get lost in where we were going, and the things hadn't started right enough. They didn't start, but Thomas never realised they didn't start because he was never there. They were waiting for him coming, he was the guest owner. That was how they never started, but he always just thought they never started in time, just because he was never on time.
Celtic meant the world to TB, as the testimonies illustrate. His glorious association with Celtic Football Club delivered nearly all he set out to achieve, irrespective of the role he played at any given time. For no matter what responsibilities he had on and off the park, he was a supporter first and foremost, and he could be just as serious and passionate as he was funny.
There was fun, but when work had to be done, then he could change immediately. People found it difficult to cope with these two things, but Tommy was easy. If you were not doing what he expected you to do, he would let you know straight away. The most important thing was that there was always joy and the love, and these things can be together. And when you have that mix, then I think then you have a fantastic base on performing well as a team.
As much as they tried to bring a lot of light-heartedness into it and make it a nice place to come into, but when things went on at the park, it was serious. It was very serious.
Serious man, but full of fun, full of warmth. As I say, somebody I'm very blessed that's crossed my path.
Tommy left Celtic for a second time, his dignity intact, on the 2nd of May 1997, and joined Kenny Dalglish at Newcastle United in a coaching role. He would have a further part to play for Celtic and Dalglish in years to come, but in between times, his managerial CV would grow as the lure of being his own boss came calling. And after leaving Dalglish and Tyneside, he became manager of struggling Championship side Reading on the 25th of March 1998. But it was in the North East that his aptitude for developing youth players would come to the fore.
We just brought in a few youngsters to try and boost up that part of the club and put Tommy in charge of them. And he used to have them out there working to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and used to get in a conversation with them and forget that they were due to finish training. When he was into the football, he was right into it. It was really helpful to a lot of those boys as well. There was nobody better than Tommy. You could trust Tommy with your life. You need people that you can trust. People that are going to stand next to you and be counted, and I couldn't think of a better boy at the time.
And from there, it was to the affluent southeast of England where, in 18 months, he brought in 25 players in very difficult circumstances. It was, according to all concerned, a huge mistake.
We were just so homesick. We really were, and we'd left Emma. She was doing her exams. Just your family and your friends, and Michael just hated it. He cried all the time. He was just wanted home. We all did, but he was more upfront about it. The results would come over the radio or whatever. It was, oh yes, would be again a step near getting home. We all did that, and do you know what? He did as well, to be honest with you. He didn't like it either.
We signed a few players. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't, but we decided to go for broke, and Stevie Keane went away to Croatia to watch Massar. Stevie came back with a glowing report, so we signed him, came at the end of pre-season, got him fit. We played Luton at Reading, and he went out and he was fantastic. We thought we had the new Pele. Crowd was going bananas, fantastic, won the game. Sat in afterwards, after our showers, when everybody was gone from the dressing room, we're sitting around, and Tommy's sitting down as he does that and talk about the game. He says, right, he says, who's responsible for this guy, Massar? Who's responsible? So Stevie Keane right away, hand up, hey, I went out, signed him. I was a guy, I went out there, done the deal, seen him, so on. I said, listen, I did a bit out in the training pitch, what I've got him fit. He says, hey, I'm the manager, I'm responsible, you guys. So about 6 weeks later, maybe 10 weeks later, unfortunately, that was the last game Massar played well for us. So after one of the games, the same thing happened after the game. Sat in, had our showers, sat round. He says, right, he says, who's responsible now? Hey, Stevie Keane, you're responsible. You signed him, you seen him, you watched him, and you tried to get him fit. Look at the state he's in now. Hey, I'm the manager, no responsibility.
He was used to working with better players, if I'm totally honest. Higher level of player. I think the league surprised him as well. We played good football the way Tommy Burns wanted to play the game and the way the game should be played, but in that league we didn't cut it. I think he'd been to see them a couple of times before he took over and thought there needed major surgery to the team. 7 days arrived, it was on deadline day, and every one of us were just signed before the 5 o'clock deadline, so it was strange. He was one of the most passionate people I've ever come across in my life. He'd let you know if you weren't performing, that's for sure. He didn't miss you, you weren't doing things the way he wanted. You know, but at the same time, he was full of encouragement.
And I remember when he got the sack, it was funny because I was in the bank with Rosemary, because I just came, so I'm staying with Tommy and Rosemary. John Majeski phones me, he says, Peter, listen, he said, I know you're very friendly with Tommy, he said, but we've just released him for his services. And I turned to Rosemary, I went, Pam's just been sacked. She went, yes! You know, so she was delighted, you know, she was getting back up the road.
All right, I says, well, let's go to Marks and Spencer's and get something nice for the dinner. The truth, but that was just the way it was. We were just so happy to get up the road, you know.
I think we got beaten one of the games anyway, and at home, which was a problem. So we were down in the dressing room and we said, let's go up and see the family now. And everybody was almost gone. And we walked into the players' lounge, and there was nobody in except the kids were there. And there was a table with all the glasses on it, after everybody had their drinks and so on. Some of them empty, some of them half full. And there was a table cover. Tommy walked over and he didn't say how he is, whatever, he didn't say anything. He just went right, and he cut the table cover and he went whoosh. And the glasses went up in the air. And I was saying, right, let's get home.
And so it was back to Celtic for Tommy Burns. Firstly, as assistant to Kenny Dalglish, who was in sole control following the departure of John Barnes. Next up, it was Martin O'Neill, while the Irishman waited in his coaching team to arrive from down south. And from there, it was on to arguably what will be his greatest legacy to Celtic, the Youth Academy.
Martin saw a role for Tommy in terms of establishing the academy. We were miles behind. Tommy's vision was that we really had to look again at developing our own. You know, if you go back to pre-70s, if a Celtic right back retired or left the club, somebody came in for the reserves. He then really from scratch built up the structures, the processes, the organisation of an academy. To this day, it's paying huge dividends. When we played AC Milan in the last 16, we finished the game 4 out of the 11 were homegrown players. So a great strike rate, and that was down to Tommy and the vision of establishing the academy. What he didn't have were the facilities, and I think that was a cause of constant frustration for him. We were offered this site at Lennoxtown. So I took Tommy up and we walked up that hill, and it was quite a cold day and we were getting higher and higher. And I said, well, this is it, Tom. And he looked at me, you know, as if, aye, that'll be right, you know. And he'd heard it all before. When we completed it, Tommy was looking for a full-size indoor pitch, and we were running out of money, and we made a third size. We went up with the keys to open the door. I was scared to let him know, and I just let him open the door, and I left. And we delivered it for him, and that gives me, and I think the rest of the club, a real degree of satisfaction.
When Martin O'Neill left Celtic in 2005, his replacement, Gordon Strachan, had, like the Irishman, brought his own backroom staff to Glasgow. But he was not going to pass up on the experience of Tommy Burns, a man who lived and breathed Celtic. His style of dealing with Celtic's younger players became crucial to the success the football club would enjoy in the next 3 years.
Even when you're playing against them, he used to say some really horrendously funny things. It shouldn't have been funny at that time of the game, but it was.
The door burst open and Tommy's head come round the door, and I'd never met him before, and he went, "Gary, how are you?" It was as though I'd been his long-lost friend forever.
The first thing that struck me straight away was his enthusiasm for the game and for young kids. You know, he worked really, really hard. That was his basis. That was just him coming back, trying to plant the foundations for the whole setup. And it was really the younger lads like sort of Aidan and that worked with him more. He was my mentor, really. You know, ever since I came in the door at 16, he was always the one I spoke to about things going on, not just in football, just in life in general. And he was always that guy you went to speak to, and he was always the one you could talk to and you could confide in him. He phoned my dad, told me he was coming down, but I wasn't expecting him to turn up with Martin O'Neill. It's quite strange to be sitting there. You know, I've got school the next day, and Martin O'Neill was sitting in my living room, basically asking me to sign for Celtic, and that obviously meant a lot as well. The fact that Tommy was in, Tommy thought that much of me to bring the manager down, and he wanted me to stay with Celtic.
As well as having two vital roles at Celtic in both coaching and youth development, from 2002, the workaholic Tommy Burns also spent a considerable amount of time as part of the Scotland national setup. It was there for a 5-year spell that his coaching techniques among the younger players were put to great use.
He made you know how lucky you were to be playing for your country. He always used to go on about how he only got 8 caps, and I mean, a player who has ability should have got more, but that was a passion that he had. He made sure that you knew how lucky you were to be playing for your country.
He was not my assistant, he was my colleague. The Scottish style of football is a little bit different to the European style, and it was a good bridge. From me to the players, it was also a good bridge. From me to Tommy, Tommy to the players. When I spoke to the players, in front of the players in the meetings, and the last 5-10 minutes always I say, please, no, Tommy Burns is speaking to you about the special details. We played a tournament in Hong Kong, and this hotel was a big karaoke bar. And then I asked always after the training session, where is Tommy? Tommy's not in a room, Tommy's blah, blah. And Tommy and the staff was in the karaoke bar. And Tommy was the singer in the karaoke bar. A lot of big hands for Tommy Burns, the best singer from Scotland. It was so great.
Bertie had the foreign approach, but Tommy was always there to give the British the sort of Scottish mentality and his swing on things. And Bertie was the manager, but Tommy was there to get the lads up for it and make sure we're pressing right. We want to play a Scottish-style game here. I think we lost in Holland 6-0, but he came to me and he spoke to me and he said, even though we were losing 6-0, you always wanted the ball. Even if you lost it and gave it away, you always came back and got it. And he sort of like came to me and said, never lose that. And that was a big mark that Tommy left on me, and I'll always remember that.
I like that about Tommy, that regardless of the pressure of all it was, that he set out his team to go forward and try and win the games. And as I say, I'm maybe a wee bit more pragmatic in that. And I thought that would be a good partnership for us to have going into the national team.
He never complained about his illness or questioned his God, but Tommy's fight with cancer was a protracted one. In July 2005, the family had returned from a silver wedding anniversary celebration in Florida, and he noticed that a pain in his leg was getting worse. His love of God and his belief that he was on this earth for a purpose were as important to him in this time of need as they had been throughout his entire life.
His faith cost me a fortune. Going to Australia, we've travelled 24 hours. We're all tired, we've all got jet lag. Tam had to go and find a chapel. I said, Tam, look, you'll find out tomorrow morning. He said, no, I need to go. So we ended up, got a taxi, and for some reason it was about half an hour away. I'm thinking the taxi, come on Tam, there must be a chapel nearby, or can you just do this tomorrow morning? Most of us were going to sleep in the next morning, but we all said, well, the Catholics would go with Tam, and I would go with Tam, and maybe Murdo McLeod if he's there, or David Proper. We'd just go there for something to do. The priest at the chapel obviously saw a lot more congregation than normal, and I think he did about 3 collections. And he just counted out paying dollars here and $1 for this thing and $1 for that. We ended up, you know, we took me, I don't know, $20, $30 each. Spending money, and we'd given it all away with no spending money. A few of us the next day didn't bother going. Couldn't afford to. But Tam went the next morning, Tam would go religiously.
If Tam could have become a priest, then he would gladly went to the priesthood and married Rosemary and played for Celtic. That was his perfect wee world. Even from an early age, Tam never missed mass many times, and whenever he went anywhere, the first thing Tam Burns would seek out would be the chapel.
He would lose a rag completely and go flippy stop training, right, you're back in the afternoon. Then he'd maybe go to mass and in between the 2 sessions, he'd come back and it's a different guy. It's a total different guy. You know, you're going, what kind of mood see you in? He comes out and cuddles you and, all right, how you doing? Come on, the wee game, do that. You go, I think you've been to Lourdes or something.
Tommy's faith would be best summed up as being that foundation, that rock in his whole life. It was built on. It wasn't someone who, in that sense, would ultimately want to engage in great theological discussion, but you could tell everything he did was built upon a love of God. That's the point, that he built up everything in his life, and that's where everything started and ended. And I think that came more to the fore, especially when it became clear that he was dying and there was not much could be done. That faith still had a great strength from it and a great tranquility.
It was just for his family and his faith and his football were definitely the 3 most important things in his life. I used to bump into people in the street and say, oh, Tommy Burns was at Mass this morning, and that was on a Monday or a Tuesday, I think it wasn't even a Sunday at 10 or a Saturday night at the vigils.
When we worked here every day religiously, use the term quite properly, nothing got in the way of his visit to the chapel. So you got to learn how to manage that a wee bit because you knew how important that was for him.
We'd been in the dressing room and you always knew if Tommy disappeared about 12:30 or around about that time, he'd be away down to Mass, down the Gallowgate.
He never lost his faith. Other people have been in similar scenario and they've always had doubts. They've always had, why me, etc. Tommy never had that. Never once did he say, why me? Never once did he say, it shouldn't happen. His faith was unbelievably strong. He believed right to the very, very end in that.
He said it's never why me, it's why not me. And if you look at things with that attitude, then you can't go wrong with a lot of things. And he just always says, well, heaven's where you want to be and all that. He did take great strength from his faith. I think that helped him a lot, helped everybody a lot, really.
The only rule he did have was if you stayed in our house, you went to Mass. It was Emma and Jenna and Jonathan. Jonathan was young at the time. So away they goes to Mass, comes back and that's fine. So Thomas and I's going to night Mass. And Jonathan said, I'll come with you. Now, at that age, Mass, John used to pull up to Mass anyway. And I said, twice in one day, John? And he went, well, the 2 girls have been out at this point. He went, well, we get into the car, Mum, he says, and Emma says, what's it to be, Jonathan, Mass or McDonald's? He says, and I chose McDonald's, so we went to McDonald's, right? So, well, he got on the phone to the 2 of them, wherever they were, get your backside's back here right now. So that was the, well, they got absolutely pelters and get sent up to St Aloysius at 9 o'clock Mass on the Sunday night. They never done it again. Be upset if he never got to Mass at some point in the day. No matter where we went in the hall, that was his first thing. So I'll go and look for a chapel and whatever. And he'd done that every night. We'd go to Mass every night in holiday as well. Come up for the pool or whatever we were doing. He'd say, I'll be running along to this Mass. I'll leave you to get them ready. I'm getting 4 beans already and he's away already. He's been shivered and comes back to the right, we're ready to go for dinner. And I'm pulled through a hedge backwards and 4 of them's all sitting ready and he's been to Mass.
As he continued to fight the disease, the then club doctor at Celtic, Roddy MacDonald, referred him to Ross Hall Hospital on the outskirts of Glasgow, and from there he was sent to the Nuffield Hospital, where he was diagnosed with a malignant melanoma. In September of that year, the tumour was removed. Tommy received treatment and a further CT scan suggested the cancer had gone, and by now he was under the care of several experienced doctors, including Celtic's new club physician, Derek McCormick.
Tommy had a recurrence of his tumour in his leg. It had spread to the lymph nodes in his groin. Further tests showed that he had spread elsewhere. This required some extensive treatment, and as a result of that, we went over to Paris. At that stage, he was offered either palliative treatment or definitive treatment. He chose the latter, albeit that it was going to be difficult. But that was the type of man he was. He wanted to go for the cure, if at all possible, even though the chances were slim. When we were over in Paris, he had to sign a consent form, and he said, "Doc, I'm not going to kind of have a sex change with this, am I?" And he was very unwell at that point, but still the humour shone through.
I was abroad at the same time, and we were talking business. He was in the hospital ward in the room there with Rosemary, and he was talking business. In a practical sense, it was a bit unreal. There was no real change to him as an individual in terms of the workplace, his humour, and really as a friend. Because he was working so hard and he was involved and we were right up to the last, it was such a shock that it happened so quickly.
He was comfortable towards the end. He didn't suffer, which is nice to relate, both for his family and of course for everyone who cared for him. I remember him saying at one point, "Now I just want to go and meet God."
I seen him, it was maybe after his first dose of chemotherapy, and he came into training and he was just went upstairs and had like a bowl of soup and that. It was as if there was nothing wrong with him. Still laughing and joking, taking a mickey at a few of the boys, and it was like there was nothing wrong, but deep down, you know, inside there was something gravely wrong with him.
It was amazing how he came in and he was still lifting people around about him rather than the other way about. So, you know, that was always the way he was. I mean, you know, sometimes there'd be a moment or two we would get down to the nitty-gritty a wee bit because you want to try and help, you know what it's like. We know, but in a situation like that, you feel so helpless and all the rest of it. But, you know, I think he had his family and his faith and all the rest of it, and that was a big, big help to him.
He dealt with it better than I think most people would, to be honest. He was very, very brave and just always thinking about other people. Like, I think he was worried for us more, to be honest, than himself and my mum and things like that, and just think he basically wasn't ready, because he wasn't ready. He told us that he wasn't ready to go. Like, he wasn't scared of it, but he just wasn't ready.
By March of the following year, the cancer had returned and spread. Tommy piloted an Australian course of treatment, which meant injections at 6-weekly intervals. By December 2006, there was a testimonial dinner in his honour in Glasgow, and the main beneficiary that night was a melanoma cancer charity. At this point, Tommy was back to his best. But it was even before then that his daughters Emma and Jenna had decided that they needed to raise awareness of a disease many people wrongly saw as not life-threatening. In 2005, when Tommy was diagnosed, he was only one of 289,107 people in the UK who were told they had cancer. And from that number, 9,583 had a diagnosis of malignant melanoma, the 7th most common type of cancer. That year, 150,000 deaths were cancer-related, and 1,800 of those were from Tommy's strain of the disease. He would, however, have a longer battle ahead.
When my dad was diagnosed, it was like melanoma, and nobody really knew anything about it. Like, we certainly didn't know. Like, when he said to us, "Oh, it's skin cancer," we were like, "Oh, thank God for that." You'd think that's the one you would want. Like, no, you wouldn't want any, but you just get it cut out and that's you, you're fine. We didn't realise how dangerous like, skin cancer was, and just totally naive probably, and we just thought there must be so many other people like in ourselves. Like, I love the sun, I go on holiday and it's like, right, when can I get down to Factor? Nothing to get a tan. We just thought if we could set up some sort of charity in my dad's name and just try and like more raise awareness to everybody, like of how dangerous it actually can be, and it's not just a case of getting a mole cut out, you know, it can spread to anywhere else in your body, and it's like terminal, just like any other one kind of thing. So we approached Liam.
It was a kind of knee-jerk reaction really, like it was within the first kind of couple of weeks we were sort of like,
What can we do?
But we need to do something. If we could even help one person, might not have thought about it otherwise, then it's worth it.
What the girls had thought was, don't let that happen in vain. What we intend to do is to try and begin a charity in his name, the Tommy Burns Skin Cancer Trust, and raise money and raise awareness. Put the money to good use to help with all those issues surrounding cancer, etc. But as well as that, use the profile that Tommy had to raise awareness, to make people aware of these things, if people do have the slightest doubt, to go and get it checked out.
Throughout his struggle with cancer, Tommy Burns continued to embrace his faith and never lost his sense of humour, even when he knew himself that perhaps his fight was lost.
He came to me one day and he said, "Gaz, it's come back." I said, "What?" He said, no, it's come back. It's come back with a bit of a vengeance and I'm worried. I said, "Well, no, Tom, you'll get through that." He went, no, I am worried. I think I should perhaps tell the gaffer now. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll tell the gaffer. And I went, "Tom, that's it. I'm going to tell the gaffer." I said, "Okay." He went, no, you stay here. It's in our dressing room downstairs. He said, "You stay here. I'll go and get the gaffer. I'll get Jim as well, Jim Broyd as well, I'll tell him." Tom. So he went to fetch them. We brought them both back in and they sat one side of the dressing room. Tom was in the corner. I was stood up by the showers. And Tom proceeded to tell him that his cancer had come back to his stomach and he was feeling it and it wasn't good news. And they were trying to say, well, and now Tom was saying, "No, it's not good news." And he kept putting his head down and saying, "It don't look too clever." And we were on the verge of all breaking down, to be fair, and Tommy's head went down. He went, "No, it's not good news." And as he got to that position, he just put his head up and he went, "And no, Jim, you're not having my shoes." And we just all broke out in laughter. It was such a sublime piece of, I don't know, comedy by Tom. It was incredible. But that was the strength of the man.
To go to Rose Hall one day for another operation, whatever, and I can't remember what operation it was for, but we went into Rose Hall and the nurse came in with an admittance sheet to start, but she'd obviously somebody else's case notes. So everything she was saying was wrong. Thomas says, no, stop. He says, "That's no, so should I better go and find the right case notes, so shouldn't I be out the door?" And he said to me, he says, "Rosemary, you go out there right now and get somebody senior in here." He says, "Because she's got somebody else's case notes." He says, "And I'm going to go in that operating theatre the night, he says, I'm going to keep it with a boob job, right?" Well, I couldn't move for laughing, and he was the same. He was killing his face. So even in his illness, I mean, that was only maybe about a month before he actually died, but he still had that, he was able to have the sense of humour.
And Tam didn't want us to see him because he was in such a bad way. I said, the doctor says, "Just let him speak to you." He says, "Then I got a call." He said, "Tam wants to speak to you." So you better get up quick. So we went up there and he's on the bed and he said something, and it wasn't too bad. So we laughed and joked for a bit. He says, "Can I have a word with you?" And the doctor's just over there. I says, "What?" "Right." It's the doc. I said, "What about the doc?" "Useless, get rid of him."
I was often the butt of his jokes.
Tommy Burns' death was announced a week before the club he loved would compete for the league championship on the last day of the season. A fact which paled into insignificance for everyone in Scottish football.
In a strange way, it took any sort of pressure off a game of football. It did. I think if it had been a normal week, we'd all be getting uptight and all the rest of it, and panicking and having to talk about this game and how it was going to go. And the fact is that all we did was talk about Tam and tell about Tam stories and all the rest of it. But when mine was taken off it was like, who cares really? But then when we got to the game, it did care. It was a strange week, that's for sure.
That was the thing that drove us on. On the way up in the bus the day before, we sat and we watched the Man United-Chelsea European Cup final, and we were talking then, you know, and that night, different people were piping up watching the game, telling a story about Tommy, and the gaffer was talking about some things, and Gary Pendry said a couple of stories, and every story that is mentioned about Tommy is always, you end up in hysterics.
It was strange. I remember the morning waking up and Mick had texted me to say Tommy had died, and it was a horrible moment, very sad. And the weeks after that, you did think about him a lot. We still think about him a lot in training now, and just wee times where you think Tommy would have done this or Tommy would have been here, you know. But the night at Tannadice was obviously a great night, and everyone was
was very happy that we won, but there was somebody missing, and you could feel that night. As soon as you woke up that morning, you knew just then that, of course, you're playing for yourselves, for your teammates, for your manager, but that night we were doing it for Tommy.
I think it was the first time or the second time I'd actually maybe cried since he died. That first day it was like I got a text and a few people phoned me just to say, you know, like he passed away, and it never really hit me until like, the first day we came back into training and the gaffer had a talk with us all, and it was then it really hit home that he wasn't going to be there anymore. Just to speak to and to bounce things off of anymore, and to sort of guide you on your journey. Obviously bringing out that wreath and putting my top down was just a really emotional time for everyone, and that overcame at the time. We were pretty choked at the time, you know. We were just trying to keep ourselves together, to be perfectly honest. You've seen the amount of people that, not just Celtic fans, Rangers fans, football fans all over the world. I mean, we know he was a fantastic player, but I think more importantly it showed you how tremendous a man he was, and it just blew everybody away. We were here when Jimmy Johnson passed away, and I remember Tam making a wee comment that day saying, "Wait till you see mine if you think this is going to be big," and I jokingly, and then a couple of years later it's just, it was incredible.
We got this bond, Tommy and I, through certain people in my family suffering with cancer, and we used to chat quite regularly about things, treatments and how he was getting on. We were so desperate to win the championship. You're always desperate to win the championship, obviously, because that's what everybody strives every year for, and Tommy was a part of that striving for the 3 years that we've been here. But we so badly wanted to win that we didn't want to let him down, you know? And I don't think we did.
On the day of the announcement, Celtic Park became a shrine to one of its most favoured sons. Flags, scarves, pictures and personal messages from all quarters were laid in front of the main entrance, and the scene was set for one of the biggest funerals the city had ever seen.
The next day I saw the picture in the paper of the Rangers team bus coming back, and they cancelled their celebration bus as well, out of respect. It's obviously just unbelievable. It was like a state funeral. It was almost as if like a pure royalty died or something. I was waiting on the gun salute going off, sitting in the car actually.
A major operation involving the family, the club, the church, the city council and the emergency services was put in place for the funeral of Thomas Burns at the birthplace of Celtic Football Club, St Mary's in the Calton. And his friend, Willie Hockey, ensured that the send-off was fitting.
I knew that he'd want buried out of St Mary's, his old parish church, and I'd sent one of my guys around to have a wee look at it, and obviously the church was in a bit of disrepair, and we didn't think that that was fitting for where Tommy Burns' last appearance should be, and we decided that we would try and renovate the church a bit. It's been said to me that Rosemary hadn't been to the church for a few days, and she couldn't believe it when she walked in at the funeral. She thought it was a different church. So hopefully we done him proud.
I think ultimately Tommy wouldn't have been that bothered. He'd have just wanted Mass, such was his faith. But St Mary's being the foundational home of Celtic, where much of Celtic's history can be traced back, once again, I think on that day, Celtic's links with the Catholic Church were fused again. The club was reminded of its own spiritual roots, and I think we could see in many ways we went back to Tommy's home, where he played football with the local team, where so many guys in the East End, you know, looked to Celtic as a beacon for football and for their hope. And to me, it was just a homecoming. It felt right. We knew it was right, and I think the occasion just spoke for itself.
The city stood still as Tommy Burns was taken to paradise one last time after a requiem mass in the East End of Glasgow. The pallbearers chosen by Rosemary Burns were 6 men who had touched the lives of the entire Burns family. There could have been many, many more possible candidates. The task of delivering the eulogy was left to Billy Stark.
First of all, I felt touched and privileged more than anything. I think when you feel like that, then you have to, take strength from somewhere, and I thought of him and the inner strength that he had. So that was a big help. But there's no way I could turn it down. I was really grateful to Rosemary to think that I should be the person to deliver that, because he touched so many people's lives in a big way. I'll be forever grateful to Rosemary for allowing me to do that.
Tommy Burns treasured three things in life above all others: his family, his faith and his football, particularly Celtic Football Club. From his roots here in the Carlton, playing football in the old gravy with his neighbour and pal Jerry Collins, through to playing and then managing his beloved Celtic, he never changed his view that he was a supporter who got lucky. Describe Tommy Burns: fiery red hair and glasses. I first saw the red hair when a skinny young boy in a Celtic jersey in a reserve game down at Dumbarton. It was a sight we were to behold for many years to come. Graceful, elegant, classy, with a cultured left foot. Full of poise, on the ball, he always wanted the ball. Head up, looking to play that killer pass. A player of real craft. The glasses were to be the catalyst for an everlasting friendship. We were on a coaching course at Largs in 1985, and Tommy would always ask me to keep his specs in my bag, because Tommy, being Tommy, didn't have a bag. Tommy Burns was a unique and special man, an inspiration to many of us. I'll miss you, old pal.
Very, very privileged. It was a sad day. I was privileged that that the guys, Peter, Alistair and Walter was with us, and how it affected those guys as much as myself, and the people around about. So it was a good day. It was a good day. It was good to be there and be part of it and be with them.
One of the proudest things I've ever been asked to do, if not the proudest thing I've ever been asked to do. And I spoke to Rosemary, and when she asked me, you know, obviously to be one of the few to carry Tam into the chapel in his place of rest, it was I honestly couldn't put words into it and to tell you, describe how I felt. You know, I was very, very upset, really upset, but at the same time I was so proud. It was unbelievable.
You know, for somebody that maybe, you know, hadn't, you know, been in his life for an awful long time, for somebody to ask you to do that was a terrific thing, and that was first and foremost, and still is. I take a great pride in being asked to do that, and obviously there's a sadness about doing it. That's the biggest thing, but you know, proud of the fact that you know, they would consider me to be enough of a friend to be asked to do that.
But to get asked that with Rosemary, was such a wonderful person, was part of that, no matter how emotional. When I look back at it now, I look back at it with pride. At the time, I was distraught.
People like Tommy don't die. They don't die because Tommy will always be remembered by people who loved him, who watched him, supporters. I don't think we'll ever forget Tommy Burns because of what Tommy meant to them.
Tommy Burns maintained that playing for Celtic also meant playing for a people and a cause. He lived his life by that mantra. He maintained that people who were different from him or who failed to see his point of view were not wrong, just exactly that, different. He loved his family, his faith, his football. And Celtic were as blessed to have Tommy Burns as he was to have Celtic.
Can I thank the Celtic support that are there and they're always there, for walking down this road of my life, which has been memorable. Can I thank my God and my family for being my reason, and they are all my reasons. Thank you.
I heard there was a secret chord that David played, and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty in the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to the kitchen chair, she broke your throat, she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew a hallelujah, 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 Baby, I've been here before. I know this room and I walk this floor. I used to live here long before I knew you. I seen your flag on Celtic Park. Love is not a victory march. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah, 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 Maybe there's a God above, but all I ever learned from love was how to shoot somebody who outdrew you. And it's not a cry that you hear at night. It's not somebody who's seen the light. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah, hallelujah,
I don't think I've ever looked on myself as anything other than a supporter who was lucky enough to get to play for Celtic.